I thought exile meant dying alone. Turns out it meant living with four alien women who argued about everything, cooked food that could kill you, and somehow made me believe in something other than survival. Grey Hollow. That's what they called it. A prison planet without bars. Just endless gray dunes, toxic air, and the kind of silence that made you forget you were human. They dumped me here 3 years ago after I refused an order. The order was simple: burn a village, execute civilians. I said no. The court-martial said treason. Funny how doing the right thing gets you exiled to hell. My shelter was a half-buried bunker, reinforced with scrap metal and sealed with desperation. I had a rifle, a water purifier that wheezed like an old man, and a routine that kept me breathing. Wake up, scavenge, hunt, survive, sleep, repeat. I hadn't spoken to another soul in 6 months, until the night they knocked. I was sharpening my knife when I heard it. Not wind, not the usual groan of metal settling. This was deliberate. Footsteps. Multiple. Light, but purposeful. My hand moved to the rifle before my brain caught up. I pressed against the door, listening. Voices. Feminine. Alien cadence. Definitely not human. I cracked the door open. 4 figures stood in the ash-pale moonlight. Women. Alien. Wrapped in tattered robes that might have been ceremonial once, but were now just rags held together by stubbornness. Their skin shimmered faintly, a soft blue-gray that caught the light. Pointed ears, eyes too large, too knowing. The tallest one stepped forward. Her posture was straight, despite the exhaustion carved into every line of her body. She looked me dead in the eye. We need shelter. One night, I should have said no. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Trust nobody, help nobody, survive alone. But these 4 women looked like they'd walked through hell and were still standing. Against every survival instinct I had, I stepped aside. They filed in without a word. I watched them carefully, rifle within reach. The tall one moved with authority, scanning the bunker like she was assessing defensive positions. A second woman, broader and scarred, positioned herself near the door like a guard. The third was younger, maybe early 20s, with haunted eyes that had seen too much. The fourth was the smallest, barely out of her teens, limping badly. I ladled out what little stew I had. They ate without speaking. No thank you. No explanation, just survival. When the bowls were empty, I tossed blankets on the floor. They settled in, still silent. I took my usual post by the door, rifle across my lap. The tall one's eyes found mine in the dim firelight. You could force us, she said quietly. Out here, no one would stop you. My jaw tightened. I don't take what isn't offered. She studied me for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled, just barely. Interesting. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened to them breathe, watched shadows shift across the floor, and I wondered what the hell I'd just let into my life. Morning came cold. I woke to movement, the smell of something cooking. I sat up, disoriented, hand reaching for the rifle. The tall one was at my stove, stirring something in the pot. She glanced at me. Your coffee is terrible, she said. I improved it. I stared. You... What? I made it drinkable. You're welcome. The broad-shouldered one was examining my door seals, pressing cloth into gaps I hadn't noticed. The youngest sat by the fire, staring at the flames like they held answers. The haunted one was folding blankets with mechanical precision. They'd been here 8 hours and were already rearranging my life. Listen, I started. Sira, the tall one interrupted. My name is Sira. This is Kale. She gestured to the broad one. Nessa. The haunted eyes. Antalya. The youngest. I didn't ask for names. You didn't ask us to leave either. Fair point. Jax, I said finally. Name's Jax. Sierra nodded like she'd expected that. We're staying another night, Jax. Maybe two. Then we'll be gone. Why are you here? Her expression hardened, because everywhere else wanted us dead. Over the next few days, I learned their story in fragments. They'd been temple keepers, what humans might call priestesses. Their temple had been raided. Men came drunk and violent, looking for something the women didn't have. They took what they wanted, burned the rest. The four of them had walked through ash and storm for 7 days to find my bunker. Why here? I asked Sierra one evening. Your fire, she said simply. We saw smoke. It was the first sign of life we'd found in days. Lucky me. She almost smiled. Lucky us. The problem was they didn't act like temporary guests. Kale reinforced my door hinges without asking. Nessa patched the roof with materials I didn't even know I had. Talia, despite her limp, fetched water every morning. And Sierra? Sierra ran everything like she was born to command. Do you always reorganize other people's lives? I asked her. Do you always let strangers stay this long? She countered. Touché. But here's the thing about living alone for 3 years. You forget how to share space. Every morning, I'd find my knife moved, my coffee made differently, my routine disrupted. It was infuriating. It was also not terrible. One night, Kale caught me watching them argue in their language, fast, sharp syllables that sounded like music and combat at the same time. What are they fighting about? I asked. Kale grinned. Nessa says your stew needs more salt. Sierra says it needs less. Talia just wants to eat. And you? I think you should learn to cook better. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound felt foreign in my throat. That's when I realized I was in trouble. 2 weeks in, I found Sierra outside at dawn, staring at the horizon. Her robe hung loose, exposing the scar that ran from her shoulder to her ribs. Can't sleep? I asked. Can't stop thinking about whether staying here is mercy or madness. I leaned against the bunker wall beside her. Probably both. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were impossibly blue in the morning light. Why did you let us stay, Jax? Really? I thought about lying, about giving some practical answer, but something in her gaze demanded truth. Because I was tired of being alone. Her breath caught, just slightly. So were we. We stood there in silence, watching the gray sun crawl over gray dunes, and for the first time since exile, I felt something other than survival. I felt hope. But hope on Grey Hollow was dangerous, because 3 days later, everything changed. I was outside checking traps when I saw it. A glint in the sky, small, fast, circling, drone. My blood went cold. I sprinted back to the bunker. Sierra met me at the door, already armed with my spare knife. They found us, she said. Who? The ones who burned our temple. They've been hunting us. Kyle appeared behind her, face grim. How long do we have? Not long enough. I looked at the four of them, at Talia's terrified eyes, at Nessa's clenched fists, at Kale's ready stance, at Sierra's unflinching resolve. 3 weeks ago, they were strangers. Now they were something else. Then we don't run, I said. We fight. Sierra's lips curved into something fierce. All of us? All of us. That night, we didn't sleep. We planned. I taught them how to hold a rifle, how to aim, breathe, squeeze. Kale took to it naturally. Nessa struggled but refused to quit. Talia's hands shook so badly I thought she'd drop the weapon, but she kept trying. Sierra didn't need lessons. She'd been fighting long before she found me. You know, I said as we cleaned weapons by firelight, this is insane. Completely, Sierra agreed. We'll probably die. Probably. And you're still staying? She looked at me, really looked at me. Where else would we go? I didn't have an answer, because the truth was, I didn't want them to go. Not anymore. Somewhere in the chaos of shared meals and patched roofs and terrible coffee, these four alien women had become something I'd thought I'd lost forever. They'd become home. Jax, Syrah said quietly. Yeah? Thank you. For not sending us away. Thank you for not leaving. Her hand found mine in the darkness. Her skin was cool, smooth, electric, and in that moment, with raiders coming and death probably waiting, I realized something terrifying. I was falling for her. The attack came at dawn, just like I'd predicted. But what I didn't predict was how everything would fall apart before the first shot was even fired. I woke to shouting, not from outside, from inside the bunker. Syrah and Nessa were face to face, voices raised in their language. Kale stood between them, trying to mediate. Talia sat in the corner, crying. What the hell is going on? I demanded. Syrah whirled on me. She wants to surrender. I want to survive, Nessa shot back. They'll kill us all if we fight. They'll kill us anyway if we don't. You don't know that. I know what they did to our sisters. I know what they'll do to us. The argument escalated. Kale grabbed Nessa's arm. Nessa shoved her away. Syrah stepped forward, eyes blazing. And that's when I saw it. The fear beneath the anger, the trauma they'd been carrying since the temple burned. Stop, I said quietly. They didn't hear me. Stop! The bunker went silent. I looked at each of them. You want to leave? Leave. I won't stop you, but if you stay, we fight together. No second guessing, no breaking ranks, together or not at all. Nessa's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. So am I admitted. But I'd rather die fighting beside you than live knowing I let you face this alone. Talia stood up, wiping her face. I'm staying. Kale nodded. Me too. Nessa looked at Syrah. At me, at the rifle leaning against the wall. Damn you both, she whispered. Then she picked up the rifle. Let's do this. But before we could even get into position, the door exploded. Not from raiders, from something worse. Kale had been checking the seals when the gas canister rolled through the gap. She saw it too late. Gas! She screamed. Purple smoke erupted, filling the bunker in seconds. My eyes burned. My lungs seized. I heard coughing, gagging, bodies hitting the floor. I crawled toward the door, blind, desperate. My hand found Syrah's arm. She was dragging Talia toward the exit. Out, she choked. Everyone out. We stumbled into the gray dawn, gasping, retching. The smoke poured from the bunker like a living thing. And standing on the ridge above us were 20 armed figures. Raiders, mercenaries, all of them pointing weapons down at us. At the front stood a woman I'd never seen before, tall, scarred, with eyes like frozen steel. Syrah, she called down. Her voice was mocking. Still running? Syrah straightened, despite the poison in her lungs. Vela, you know her? I rasped. She led the raid on our temple. Vela descended the ridge slowly, weapon lowered but ready. You cost me 3 good men tracking you across this wasteland. Now I'm going to make you pay for that. You'll have to kill us first, Syrah said. Vela laughed. Oh, I will. But first, I'm going to make you watch while I kill him. She pointed at me. The human who thought he could hide you. That's when everything went sideways. Kale lunged without warning, without hesitation. She threw herself at Vela with a scream that tore from somewhere deep and primal. Vela's rifle came up. The shot cracked across the dunes. Kale spun backward, blood spraying from her shoulder. No! Nessa roared. The raiders opened fire. I grabbed Syrah and Talia, dragging them behind the bunker's outer wall. Bullets chewed through metal. Ash exploded around us. Kyle! Talia screamed. I saw her, lying in the open, blood pooling beneath her, still breathing, barely. Cover me! I shouted. I didn't wait for an answer. I sprinted into the open, bullets whining past my head. I grabbed Kale's collar and dragged her back, my muscles screaming, my heart hammering. We collapsed behind the wall. Nessa was already there, hands pressing against Kale's wound. She's bleeding out, Nessa sobbed. Pressure! Keep pressure! Sierra appeared beside me, her face streaked with tears and rage. We can't win this. I know. We're going to die here. I know. She grabbed my face, forced me to look at her. Then I need you to know something. Sierra, I love you, you stubborn human fool. I've loved you since the third day when you gave Talia your blanket and slept in the cold. My chest cracked open. Sierra, and if we die today, I need you to know that these weeks with you were worth everything. I kissed her. Hard, desperate, tasting ash and blood and fear. When we broke apart, bullets were still screaming overhead. Kyle was still bleeding. The raiders were closing in. But something had changed. I wasn't fighting for survival anymore. I was fighting for love. Nessa, I said, can you keep Kale alive for 10 minutes? Maybe. Why? Because I'm going to end this. Sierra's eyes widened. Jax, no, trust me. I grabbed my rifle, checked the magazine, and stood. Vela, I shouted over the gunfire. The shooting stopped, slowly, cautiously. What? Vela called back. You want me? Come get me, one-on-one. You win, you take them all. I win, you walk away. Silence. Then laughter. You're serious? Dead serious. More silence. Then Vela appeared from behind her cover. She slung her rifle over her shoulder and drew a long blade instead. All right, human. Let's see what you're made of. I dropped my rifle, drew my knife, and walked toward her. The space between me and Vela felt like walking toward my own grave. Every step crunched in ash. Every breath tasted like iron and fear. Behind me, I heard Sierra's voice, tight with panic. Jax, don't do this. I didn't turn around, couldn't, because if I looked at her, I'd lose my nerve. Vela circled me like a predator. She was bigger than I expected, all muscle and scar tissue. Her blade gleamed in the gray light. You know you're going to die, right? She said conversationally. Maybe. But I'll take you with me. She grinned. I like you, human. Shame I have to gut you. She struck fast, blade whipping toward my throat. I twisted, barely dodging, felt the edge kiss my shoulder. Blood bloomed hot through my shirt. I countered with my knife, aiming for her ribs. She blocked, steel ringing against steel. We broke apart, circling again. Not bad, she admitted, but not good enough. She came at me again, faster this time. A flurry of strikes that drove me backward. I parried, blocked, felt my arms going numb from the impact. She was stronger, faster, more experienced. I was losing. A boot slammed into my chest. I flew backward, hitting the ground hard, air exploding from my lungs. My knife skittered away. Vela stood over me, blade raised. Any last words? Yeah, I gasped. Duck. Her eyes widened. Too late. The rock hit her square in the temple. She staggered, dazed. I looked past her. Talia stood there, arms still extended from the throw, eyes wide with shock at what she'd just done. Run! I shouted at her. Vela recovered faster than I expected. She spun toward Talia with a snarl. I launched myself at her back, wrapping my arms around her neck, dragging her down. We hit the ground in a tangle of limbs and fury. She slammed an elbow into my ribs, once, twice. Pain exploded through my chest, but I held on, squeezing harder, cutting off her air. Her raiders were shouting, raising weapons. But Vela screamed at them, voice strangled. No! Mine! We rolled, grappling in the ash. She was stronger, but I was desperate. She tried to gouge my eyes. I bit her hand until I tasted blood. She howled. My hand found her dropped blade. I grabbed it, swung wild. The blade caught her across the face. Blood sprayed. She screamed, reeling backward. I scrambled to my feet, chest heaving. She clutched her face, blood pouring between her fingers. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Two survivors, two fighters. Both knowing this ended only one way. She charged. No finesse, just rage. I sidestepped, drove the blade up under her ribs, and twisted. Her eyes went wide. She grabbed my shoulders, holding herself upright. Blood bubbled at her lips. You actually did it, she whispered. Then she collapsed. Silence. The raiders stared at their dead leader, at me, covered in blood, at the four alien women behind me, still standing, still alive. Your leader's dead, I called out. The deal was, I win, you walk away. So, walk. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then one raider lowered his weapon, then another. They backed away slowly, then turned and fled into the dunes. I stood there, swaying, the blade still in my hand. Then my knees gave out. Syrah caught me before I hit the ground. I've got you, she whispered. I've got you. I looked past her at Kale. Nessa was still pressing against her wound, but Kale's eyes were open. Alive. We won, I breathed. We survived, Syrah corrected. Again. Getting Kale inside was a nightmare. She'd lost a lot of blood, and every movement made her scream. Nessa and I carried her while Syrah and Talia cleared the bunker of gas. By the time we got her on the makeshift medical table, she was barely conscious. I need to get the bullet out, I said. Nessa's hands shook. Do you know how? I've done field surgery before, but it's going to hurt like hell. Kale's eyes found mine. Just do it. No anesthetic, no painkillers, just a knife, boiling water, and prayer. I worked as fast as I could while Nessa held Kale down. Syrah gripped her hand. Talia turned away, unable to watch. Kale screamed. The sound tore through the bunker, raw and primal, but she didn't pass out. She stayed conscious through all of it, her body rigid with agony. When I finally pulled the bullet free, we all exhaled. It's out, I said. Now we just have to pray infection doesn't kill her. She's stronger than infection, Nessa said fiercely. She's stronger than all of us. For 3 days, Kale burned with fever. We took shifts watching her, cooling her with wet cloth, forcing water between her cracked lips. On the second night, when it was just me and Syrah on watch, she finally spoke what we'd both been thinking. We can't stay here. I looked up from sharpening my knife. What? This place. It's death, Jax. Even if we survive the raiders, the land will kill us. The air, the storms, the isolation, we can't build a life here. There's nowhere else to go. I'm exiled. You're hunted. Then we find somewhere new. Somewhere off the maps, where no one's looking. I stared at her. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. She moved closer, her hand finding mine. These weeks with you, they've shown me something I thought I'd lost. Hope, purpose, a reason to keep fighting. Syrah, I want to build something with you, Jax. Not just survive, build. A real home, maybe even a family someday. My throat tightened. I'm a convicted criminal. You're refugees. We're not exactly parent material. Neither were most people who raised children throughout history. Doesn't mean they didn't try. I pulled her close, resting my forehead against hers. You really think we can do this? I think we're too stubborn to fail. I kissed her then, soft this time, not desperate, a promise instead of goodbye. When we pulled apart, Kale's voice rasped from the medical table. Get a room, you two. We spun around. She was smiling weakly, eyes barely open. Kale! Sierra rushed to her side. You're awake. Unfortunately, she winced. Everything hurts, including my feelings from watching you two make out. Despite everything, I laughed. By the fourth day, Kale was sitting up. By the fifth, she was arguing with Nessa about how to reinforce the bunker. By the sixth, she was limping around, refusing to stay in bed. That's when we started planning our escape. There's a dead zone, I said, pointing to my worn map. 300 kilometers north. No settlements, no patrols, nothing but rock and ice. Sounds delightful, Nessa muttered. It's also survivable. There's a geothermal vent system, underground water. We could build there. Actually build. Talia leaned over the map, tracing the route with her finger. How long to get there? On foot? 2 weeks, maybe 3. That's a long time exposed. Which is why we leave at night. Move fast, stay hidden. Sierra studied the map, then studied me. When do we go? 3 days. Gives Kale time to heal, gives us time to pack supplies. 3 days, Sierra repeated. Then she smiled. Let's build something worth living for. Those 3 days were strange. We knew we were leaving, but it felt like preparing for war and a wedding at the same time. Kale and I reinforced travel packs while Nessa sorted supplies. Talia practiced walking longer distances, building her strength. Sierra cataloged everything we'd need to survive the journey. But at night, when the work was done, things got complicated. Nessa cornered me on the second night while I was checking weapons. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Do you love her? Sierra? I froze. Why are you asking? Because she loves you, and if you're just using her for company, I need to know now so I can kill you before we leave. I met her eyes. I love her more than I've ever loved anyone. Nessa studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Good. Because she deserves someone who sees her as more than just survival. She is more. She's everything. Nessa actually smiled. Then welcome to the family, Jax. Try not to die. The night before we left, I found Talia outside, staring at the stars. Can't sleep, I asked. I keep thinking about the temple, she said quietly, about our sisters who didn't make it. I sat beside her. I'm sorry you lost them. I'm sorry you lost your old life. I'm not. The words surprised even me, that life was orders and violence and trying to be someone I wasn't. This is real. She looked at me. You really think we can make it? I think if 4 priestesses can survive a temple burning and walk 7 days through hell, and 1 exiled soldier can refuse to let them die, then yeah, we can make it. She leaned her head against my shoulder. I'm glad we found you, Jax. I'm glad you knocked on my door. We left at dawn. Each of us carried a pack filled with everything we owned: weapons, water, hope. I took one last look at the bunker that had been my prison and my salvation. Ready? Sierra asked. I turned to face them, 4 alien women who'd walked into my life and changed everything. Sierra, with her fierce intelligence and fiercer heart. Kale, wounded but unbroken. Nessa, protective and loyal to her bones. Talia, young but stronger than she knew. My family. Ready. We walked north into the unknown. The first week was brutal. The terrain shifted from ash dunes to jagged rock. Storms rolled through every night, forcing us to huddle together for warmth. Water was scarce. Food scarcer. But we kept moving. On the eighth day, we found ruins, ancient structures half buried in stone. We sheltered there, exploring while we rested. Talia found murals on the walls, faded but still visible, figures that looked almost human, almost alien, together. What do you think they were? She asked. Survivors, Sira said, like us. Do you think they made it? I looked at the empty ruins. I think they tried. That's all anyone can do. On the 10th day, Kale collapsed. Her wound had reopened. Infection was setting in despite everything. We need to stop, Nessa insisted. We can't, Kale gasped. We're too exposed. You're dying. Then carry me. We compromised, made camp in a cave system. I redressed Kale's wound, burning away infected tissue with a heated blade. She screamed into Nessa's shoulder but didn't pass out. That night, delirious with fever, she grabbed my arm. Promise me something, she whispered. Anything. If I don't make it, you take care of them. All of them. You're going to make it. Promise me. I promise. But you're going to be there to call me an idiot when I mess up. She smiled weakly. Deal. She survived the night and the next. By the third day in the cave, her fever broke. You're too stubborn to die, Nessa said, crying. Learned from the best, Kale replied, squeezing her hand. On day 14, we saw it. The dead zone. A valley carved between mountains, steam rising from geothermal vents, ice glittering in the weak sunlight. It's beautiful, Talia breathed. It's home, Sira said. We descended into the valley, found a sheltered spot near a warm spring, and for the first time since leaving, I felt something like peace. That night, we built our first fire in the new camp, sat around it, exhausted but alive. So, Kale said, what do we do now? Now, I said, we build. Build what? Everything. The next months were the hardest work of my life. We constructed shelter from stone and salvaged metal, dug channels for water, planted seeds we'd carried all this way, built walls, created systems. We argued constantly about everything, where to put the latrine, how to reinforce the walls, whose turn it was to cook. But we also laughed, told stories, learned each other's languages, created traditions. Nessa taught me alien card games that made no sense. Kale showed me combat techniques that nearly killed me. Talia sang songs from the temple, her voice echoing through the valley. And Sira was my anchor, my partner, the person I fell asleep beside and woke up next to. 6 months after arriving, we had a home, not a bunker, not a shelter, a home. That's when Sira told me. We were alone, checking the perimeter. She stopped suddenly, turned to me. I'm pregnant. The world tilted. You're what? Pregnant. With your child. Our child. I stared at her, at the slight curve of her belly I'd somehow missed, at the way her hand rested there, protective. Sira, quote. I know this complicates things. I know we're barely surviving as it is. I know. I kissed her, deep and fierce and full of every emotion I couldn't put into words. When we broke apart, she was crying. We're going to have a baby, I whispered. We're going to have a baby, she repeated, then laughed. We're insane. Completely. You're terrified. Absolutely. Good. So am I. We told the others that night. Kale whooped. Nessa cried. Talia immediately started planning nursery arrangements. This is happening, Kale said, grinning. We're going to have a tiny human-alien hybrid running around. Destroying everything, Nessa added. Teaching it terrible habits, Talia said. Perfect, I said. Just like family. The pregnancy was difficult. Hybrid biology was unpredictable. Sira suffered, I stayed beside her through every complication, every scare, every sleepless night. The others helped constantly. Kale hunted. Nessa built a medical station. Talia never left Syrah's side. When labor came, it lasted 18 hours. I held Syrah's hand while she screamed, pushed, fought to bring our child into the world. And then I heard it. A cry. Small, loud, furious at existence. "It's a girl," Nessa said, laughing through tears. They placed her in my arms. She had Syrah's blue-gray skin and my dark hair. Her eyes were huge, shifting between colors. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "What do we name her?" Syrah asked weakly. I looked at the 4 women who'd become my family, at the valley we'd built together, at this tiny life that shouldn't exist but did anyway. "Hope," I said. "Her name is Hope." Years passed. Hope grew strong and wild, raised by 5 parents who taught her to fight, to think, to survive, to love. Other exiles found us, other refugees. Word spread of the valley where the unwanted were welcome, where families were built from broken pieces. We became a community, a settlement, a home. I never returned to Earth, never asked for pardon, didn't need it, because I'd found something better than redemption. I'd found belonging. One night, decades later, I sat outside our house watching the stars. Syrah joined me, her hair now streaked with silver, her hand still finding mine like it always had. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, letting us stay that first night. I looked at our valley, at the lights in windows, at Hope, now grown, teaching her own children to plant seeds, at Kale and Nessa arguing good-naturedly by a fire, at Talia conducting evening prayers. "Not once," I said, "you're the best thing that ever happened to me." We knocked on your door half dead, and made me realize I'd been half dead too. You brought me back to life. She leaned against me, and we sat in comfortable silence. 2 survivors who'd found each other in hell and built heaven from ash. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too. Always." The stars above were the same stars that had watched me arrive in exile. The same stars that had watched 4 desperate women knock on a bunker door. But everything else had changed. Because sometimes survival isn't about fighting alone. Sometimes it's about opening your door when strangers knock. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those strangers become family.